Georgia at home versus Kentucky. Two teams that are 5-0. What if I told you Georgia was 0-5 against the spread? I'm sure some of you guys out there, I'm sure some of you guys, if you're watching this right, you follow college football. You're probably pretty aware of that. But Kentucky's 5-0, man, and they just came off a dominating performance at home against Florida. Devin Leary stinks. Did I say that?
No, he has stunk.
I do stunk.
I think we need to clarify that. Where it might not be this game, it might not be ever for the rest of his college football career, but he has stunk.
He has stunk this season. He has stunk. So
give me Lynn Bowden back. Give me Lynn Bowden back.
Yeah, give me the absolute dynamic run around like backyard football, sling the rock. Yeah, but in all reality, people have been questioning this Georgia run defense a lot. And look, I get it. It hasn't looked the same, right? It hasn't looked absolutely dominating. And Ray Davis just came off an absolute career day against Florida. This Georgia coaching staff is not going to let that happen. This Kentucky team is one-dimensional. This Georgia defensive staff knows that, and they're going to take advantage of that. Sure. Has Carson Beck been a lot better in the second half? Has he had trouble getting off to quick starts? Yes. Is Carson Beck also second in the SEC in passing yards? Also, yes. Is Carson Beck finding ways to win ball games? Yes. Yes, he is. Give me Georgia to win this game. That's an easy pick for me. But I'm also going to lay 14.5. Believe it or not. I'm going to lay it. I just think that this is a bad matchup for Kentucky. I just think, like, if you have a adapted Georgia defensive staff staring at a Kentucky team at home that is one-dimensional, that can't throw the ball. Now, we said that about Auburn. Jordan-Hare's a weird place to play.
They didn't even. How was that game close? They had 80 passing yards. How was that game close, man?
All of Auburn's touchdowns came on possessions where they started with the ball inside the 50-yard line.
Yeah, and Georgia knows that. Kirby Smart is not stupid. What do you think the memo was all week? Don't turn the ball over. Every possession with a kick. Find Brock Bowers every freaking play. Like, that's what it was. I just think this is a prime spot. I really feel bad for Kentucky. I think they're in for a tune-up. I think they're going to get boat raced here. Now, I think if the line, obviously, if the game was at Kentucky, the line would be a lot less. But, and it'd be a much different story. I think Georgia at home, a pissed-off Georgia at home. We just talked about it in a Notre Dame Louisville breakdown. Kentucky coming off a high. Georgia coming off a frustrating win. Coming back at home, it just evens out. And the talented team, in this case, Georgia, I think is going to be pissed off. Carson Beck's a really good football player. I'm going to say that. If you don't believe that, he's a really good football player. He gets some hate for that one interception. He had 313 yards at Auburn against a really good defense when it mattered.
Last three possessions, when he needed to score, what did he do? All three of those possessions. Found a way to score. Whether that included Brock Bowers, that was up to him.
He'd be stupid not to use him. You can't punish him for having Brock Bowers on his football team, right? It's like with Marvin Harrison up at Ohio State. He's that kind of impact. Now, I would like to see other guys on that offense, specifically the running backs, right? Running the football better. But they have a talented wide receiver group in its own right. Ladd McConkey finally got healthy last week. Right? Dominic Lovett was the big-time transfer. Marcus Rosemead, Jack St. Where's he been? Right? And then even Rara Thomas from Mississippi State. You'd like to see those guys get involved more. Then you get your explosive plays down the football field. Can maybe back up that defense. Kentucky got a good defense. I think Kentucky's not a bad football team. I think they're in for a rude October, November. I think they got a really tough schedule. I'm happy for them. They got their moment of glory against Florida. Again, though, that was a weird game. They jumped on Florida. They ran the ball really, really well. That's not going to happen against Georgia. And now maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we're both wrong. Maybe this is the new Georgia where Georgia just struggles to put teams away. And eventually they're going to get beat and get hurt. But I don't think this Kentucky team is a team to do that and actually win this football game. Because, and like we talked about Devin Leary, love Devin Leary. I like Devin Leary, right? I think he's better. His days are his better football days are ahead of him. I really do believe he's going to find a stride here in
Okay.
Kentucky. Hopefully, not this game though, not at Sanford Stadium. And the problem is first of all, we talked Peyton Thorne and Robbie Ashford ran for 8 yards a carry against Georgia. That's why they ran the ball so well. That's not who Devin Leary is, right? So as good as Ray Davis is, right, and as productive as he's been, it's harder to run the football with just one running back against Georgia, right? We've seen elite defenses. How to attack them is running the ball in multiple ways, whether it's your extended running game in your quick passing game, which is where maybe you have some success with your explosive receivers, quick passes there, bubble screens, quick slants, whatever it is, pop passes. But I just don't think they're going to be able to run the ball. I think it's going to be pissed off Georgia team. Talented team, pissed off, coming back home, never a good recipe.
Yeah, I agree. And look, people are like, oh, Auburn ran for over 200 yards against Georgia. If you take away that one Peyton Thorne 61-yard run, right, they would have run less than 160 or 150 yards, which is a completely different narrative than what we're looking at right now.
They also ran the ball 43 times, and that's not gonna. I don't think Kentucky. Right, they jumped on them 10-0, and Jordan Hare. That's a totally different football game. Sorry, you keep going.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, let me do some quick math right here. Wait, 19 minus 61 divided by 42. I mean, you take away that one run, Auburn averaged 3.7 yards per carry, which again is an entirely different narrative than, oh yeah, this Georgia run defense is terrible. It's not what it used to be. We get it. We know that. And then you're also going to blame Georgia's. Not yet. Now you're also going to blame Georgia's run game. You're like, well, they can't really run the ball. Well, Kendall Milton's been out. Guess who was practicing last week? Guess who didn't play last week? Guess who might play this week? At home. I'm just saying, like, there's some things. Georgia's getting a little bit more healthy by the day. I think Devin Leary is one-dimensional, or I think Kentucky's offense is one-dimensional. It hasn't looked good in reality. It actually hasn't looked good. Except for running the ball against Georgia, this offense has not looked very clean. So I
ask you a question here.
Yeah.
Does Mark Stoops have the best job in college football? Like in terms of pay and resources and expectations? Like if he loses this football game by 30 points, nobody's going to bat an eye. Nobody's going to bat an eye. But if you're Auburn and you're, Hugh Freeze, right? Gus Malzahn there, right? That is such a brutal job. There is most jobs in the SEC, I'll argue, are very, very unfair expectations, right? Not Kentucky, man, for whatever reason. And it's a good program. It's got good resources. And for whatever reason, they just, because the basketball team, maybe, he always gets a pass. And it's not, I think he's had good football teams. I'm not saying he's a pass. But I think the expectation there is, let's just win 7 games, 8, 10 games, maybe every once in a while,
Yeah, I mean, if they go 1-6 the rest of the way this season, Mark Stoops, his job is more than secure. I mean, he's coming back next year. They're like, how do we build it? I mean, first of all, also Mark Stoops has done a good job in the transfer portal. I think getting like good guys, getting the right guys.
Devin Leary.
Yep.
Devin Leary was a good get. Ray Davis, obviously.
Yeah, it was a good get. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not a Kentucky hater. I'm just saying, like, let's relax. This Georgia team is still good. All right, this Georgia team is still good.
Don't make assumptions on just one football game, 1 week of football. Don't make assumptions on it. Matters. Everything matters, but it's not everything,